Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing It's Swifty Times Legacy Challenge winning Patchwork Stompy deck. So, this is kind of the newer version of 8cast, with not as many casts as we used to have. We've only got 6 casts with the Thought Cast and the Thought Monitors, and we are leveraging Patchwork Automaton as like a potent threat that is hard to deal with, so we can slam this on turn 1, play a bunch of zeros, grow it, and put a really good aggro plan. So we can almost do like a tempo-y style game using things like Force and Metallic Rebuke to protect our guy until it beats them down. So for those unfamiliar with the general 8cast plan, it's a very artifact heavy deck. So we've got a whole bunch of 0-drop artifacts, load of redraws in Baubles and other Baubles, and then we've got the Petals and the Mox Opals to power out some fast mana. We've even got artifact lands here. But we're mainly like an Urza Saga deck trying to leverage this to make some big creatures, and we make them really big. This is one of the biggest decks for Urza Saga constructs. Got a few little targets you can find with them, like Shadow Spear, Needle, and Ether Spellbomb. And then using our selection of artifacts, we then can play some affinity spells like Thoughtcast to draw more artifacts to then power up our creatures again. Thought Monitor, same sort of jam. We also have Emery, so we can recur things like our Spellbomb or just Petals and Baubles, just get some more advantage going there. And yeah, the whole deck just kind of like draws a bunch of cards, plays some guys, beats people down. We've got a little bit of Otawara utility in our lands. And this list is playing 1 Lorien Revealed. We only have 2 islands, but if we've already got 2 islands, this is almost certainly going to be a draw 3. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We only got 2 Chalices in here. The older builds of 8cast would sometimes run 4, but we've made room for these Patchworks, which is pretty good. And there is one card that I haven't mentioned yet that I'm really excited to play. It's not this Kappa Cannoneer as a big beat stick. No, it is Sir Ginger the Mealender. This is a 2-mana 3/1. It has Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as an opponent controls a Planeswalker. That's not really the reason we're running it. The reason we're running it is because it says whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it and scry. So every time we sack a Lotus Petal or a Bauble or an Opal or the other Baubles or even a Spellbomb, this is going to grow. So this is kind of like Patchwork Automaton numbers 5 and 6 basically. And we can sacrifice and gain a bunch of life if that becomes relevant. So sometimes you end up in some weird races where someone can be beating you in the sky because we're not like playing size or anything to pump out a load of guys in the air. So maybe someone's beating us down with the Murktide. We can bash with this and then we can maybe sack it to gain a whole load of life if that's relevant. So it might come up. Also in the mana base, we've got a few Ancient Tomb style lands, so we can power these out on turn 1 as soon as possible. Sideboard-wise, we've got more counterspells in the form of Flusterstorm, Hydroblast, and Force of Negation, depending on what sort of things we're trying to counterspell. A couple of Haywire Mites, so if we've got to blow up some awkward permanents here and there. We've got a couple of Hull Breachers to mess with our opponent's draw abilities. We've got some Removal and Dismember, and we've got another as a Saga target in Soulguide Lantern that we can go and shoot for graveyard decks. But mainly against those graveyard decks, we're going to be trying to leverage things like Chalice and our Counter Magic Suite as a general rule. But having a Soulguide Lantern is always handy too. And yeah, that's it. That's the deck. Won the Legacy Challenge. Pretty excited to play this. Haven't played any sort of 8cast style deck for a while. So remember to like and subscribe and let's just jump right in. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, our opening hand makes a Patchwork Automaton and grows it a little bit, then follows up with a Chalice. This is a keeper to me. Depending on how things go, we might want to play the Chalice on 1, but I think we're probably going to want to just be aggressive and get the Patchwork down. So importantly, this is whenever you cast an artifact spell. So we will get to grow this even if our spells don't resolve. Right, so play Ancient Tomb, play Patchwork Automaton, drop a Bauble. We'll take a look at our opponent's deck just in case they are one that maybe wants us to drop this on 0, even though that's terrible for us. Right, that's unlikely to be one we want to drop that on 0 for. Sure, we'll pass. Next turn we can... I don't think the Chalice is necessarily going to be that useful. I think the most common Solitude deck at the moment is Initiative, so they're pretty much just going to ignore what we're doing if we put a Chalice on 1, so I think it is better to get the threat down. The format is very proactive right now as well, so you want to be getting on the front foot. A Chrome Mox. Okay, Chalice 0 would have been interesting, but again, I think it shuts us off more than it shuts them off. So they could Solitude and pay 2 for the ward here on our Patchwork. Boromir. So this is whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Okay, a little bit rude, truth be told, because that's going to counter us pretty hard. But we do get to... so if we play this one out, we can bounce this right now and then attack. That seems reasonable. Tap this. I think we're just going to bounce their guy, slow him down a little bit. Go on Mox Opal down. I don't think I want to play this Chalice out because they might just Solitude us. Kind of need like a big draw engine, like Thought Cast, Thought Monitor type stuff. We're a little bit shy of Thought Monitor right now, I think. 1, 2, 3, potentially 4. All right, they've chosen Archon, which means they're probably playing the Archon of Emeria. There it is. But we have a bigger creature than this. So that's okay for now. We're going to get to play one spell a turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we play this land out, we can hard cast a Force of Will if we need to. Oh wait, that's not true because we have the Archon of Emeria, that's right. So are we deploying this Chalice for 1 to dodge things like Swords to Plowshares? Like, that's a possibility. We probably should have played this pre-combat if that's what we're going to do. I kind of would like to draw... I don't think we play this because if we draw a Shadow Spear, that's going to be a pretty big game in a matchup that's basically just a full-on aggro matchup. There is the Boromir. Creature you control getting indestructible. The ring tempts you as well. We definitely have the bigger creature. Maybe we were supposed to play that just to get the extra point of power. So they've got 2 mana to play the Solitude now. If we get to untap here, that's pretty good. Because we get to counterspell this Solitude when they throw at us. Thought Cast. I do kind of want to cast this, but feels like our opponent is going to Solitude us, and we want to deal with that. Interesting. So we kill in 2 swings. Is it worth just holding up this Thought Cast? We could just draw into a blue spell and have our... I think we're just going to hold up this hard cast Force of Will. And I don't feel great about this, but we are winning the race right now. I think they were waiting for us to cast a spell so they could Solitude without worrying about counter magic. They've got another cavern they can make an uncounterable Solitude, but they won't be able to pay the 2 on the ward. This cannot be countered. So holding up this Force of Will, not looking great there, but we are holding it to keep our creature alive against Solitude. So if they tap out here, if they don't have another follow-up land, then they can't play the Solitude on our turn anyway. I think our opponent's just going to beat us with raw power here. Now also Thoughtcast in the face of an Archon of Emeria doesn't feel great either. We're just kind of in a horrible spot all round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could play a Thought Monitor right now. Costs 4, which is not free, that's for sure. Don't think we want to tap the Ancient Tomb because we want to keep our life total relatively high. We don't get to cast on their artifact here, which is a bit of annoying. So if we attack, struggling a bit, we can't cast this Lotus Petal to pump our guy. We have to pass here. Maybe have to... I think we're just going to lose this Boromir as well. Quite an annoying selection of pieces our opponents had this game. Holding up the Force of Will wasn't great for us, but they've got a telegraphed... yeah, we have to watch out for a Solitude on our opponent's thing, so we kind of have to play around that. It's really awkward. So this creatures you control. So if we block here, they would just sacrifice this, give this indestructible, and then we take 2, 3, 4. If we block here, we take 7, 8, 9. So we don't really have a choice unless we want to put this under the bus, and trap will kill us next turn. So I guess we're going here to get the trade-off for the Boromir. They could just hit us for 5 and let this go, but I don't think that's a great... I guess they could have just have loads of stuff in hand. Okay, they're giving their guys indestructible, sure. So our Patchwork will soak up some damage and we'll take 4. We can crack back and get the initiative. Not that that's necessarily going to be very helpful given our current dire straits. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. Like, we're not getting any better. We get to cast 1 more spell on our turn, so we may as well use that because the 2/2 is going to be a pain for us. Alright, deck. I'm not really sure what we can have here. We can cast a Thought Cast, and then what? Yeah, I think we're just dead here. All right. The initiative. What do we want here? These Hydroblasts are good against some of their things. These Chalices are bad against most of their things. So that's a pretty easy start to sideboarding. The Dismembers we probably have to run as well. So what are we looking to trim? I guess we can probably trim a bauble. We're probably trimming top end here. I do like having the 2/2 flyer though. So we don't have a lot of flying ability in this deck. But maybe we just have to ignore that and just trim on the top end. Because this game's going to be about the bottom end, if you know what I mean. We don't really want to be cycling Alara Revealed. Although it does help us potentially around Magus, but we have loads of artifact mana anyway. I think we're going to go with something like this. And there is... Maybe we're supposed to bring in the Haywire Might to blow up enemy Chalices, actually. That feels like something we maybe wanted. What does this hand do? 1, 2... Okay, so we'll check that. Pithing Needle. That's really good for Broadside Bombardiers if they're playing it, as well as Favor Mirror Breaker on the backside. 1, 2... How do we want to approach this turn? I think we are Seat of the Synod, play Ether Spellbomb, and play Lotus Petal. And then next turn, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, next turn we can play this as a Saga, draw 2 cards with Thoughtcast. It's not great, I don't think. I'm not very good at playing these 8-cast decks as a general rule. I find it hard to evaluate hands where you've just got a bunch of zeros and stuff in. Chrome Mox. Sure, we can bounce a guy if we need to, but if they're playing a initiative guy, that's going to be a problem. If they're playing a Boromir, that's not so bad right now, but it can obviously get annoying for us. Eowyn. Yep, been blown up by that card a few times. Loran of the Third Path. Blowing up our only mana source. Oakley dokely. That's terrible news, isn't it? Yikes. Okay, so we drew this anyway. So we do get to... It's 2 mana. It's cost us our Lotus Petal. But we need to kind of keep deploying things. So a Cap Cannoneer is the sort of thing that can win this game for us. But we're a long way off of that being a thing we get to put into play. We need more of our zeros. Okay, zeros are now officially terrible. Yes, Boromir is not something you see very often, but it's certainly going to do work against us here. Okay, we drew a Patchwork. That's actually okay. That's a thing we get to cast and do things with. Metallic Rebuke. I think we are on Urza Saga here. We can crank out some creatures if we need to. Right. We have a 1/1. Alright, we're going to see a 4-drop this turn. Probably Seasoned Dungeoneer, I'd imagine. There it is. Okay, how do we beat Seasoned Dungeoneer? Honestly, no idea. Is this a warrior? Soldier? Artifice. Okay, so they won't... Right, they're double spelling this turn as well. Yikes. We are so far behind here. I don't think we can block here. I don't know how we win this game. I'll probably take on the draw and scoop this one up. This feels... I can't think of a path of cards that gets us there. So if we like make... So we've got 1, 2, 3 artifacts. So this is 2 mana to draw 2 cards. We can't play a Cap Cannoneer. We could just play out some Saga constructs. This is not going to grow, unfortunately. So we could try and Thoughtcast here to spike something like a Mox here. So how big is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll make a 4/4 if we... This is 2 mana, right? 1, 2, 3... Yeah, so we can't cast this. So we just have to make tokens and hope they do something. Bouncing a Seasoned Dungeoneer doesn't feel amazing, but it's something we're probably going to have to do at some point. Maybe we were supposed to block that Loran, but giving us a 4/4 this turn is really big compared to having a 3/3. And we couldn't have spun for a Mox Opal anyway because we had the Boromir all up in our business. Okay, they didn't discard any cards of Fable, right? Yep, this puts us to 8. This guy's big. So we get to block with there's a Saga Construct. I think getting the Construct is better than trying to counterspell that. So we can't block the Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we block this. We take lethal. Well, we don't take lethal just yet, actually. Right, let's make a friend. Bouncing the Loran is obviously not a thing we want to do either. So we got blocks here. So this, we can block the Boromir to say 3 lives. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this has to block here. Which means they'll just let this happen. And then our constructor will take some damage and then die. Yeah, we needed them to sacrifice the Boromir there. I don't know how we're supposed to win that. It felt like we were massively outclassed that entire game. Let's go to round 2 and see if I can string together a better sequence of plays. Right, welcome to round 2. We're on the play. What does our hand do? We don't get to make anything on turn 1, so that's probably not good. What does this hand do? This is an Urza Saga hand. I think that's acceptable. We can throw away one of the tombs. Unfortunately, we have the Lord of the Rings Balin's tomb rather than regular old ancient tomb. Apologies for that. Play Mox Opal. I think I'm going to play this out naming Wasteland because we're kind of all in on this Urza Saga, so we want to be able to ride this to victory. Now, if we had anything else going on in our hand, then we could do things differently. We can also play the Seat of the Synod to make our thing as well, so we're going to have slightly bigger constructs without having to use our tomb straight away. Misty Rainforest. What flavour of Misty Rainforest? Blue, black. A ponder. Okay. So we're going to get to jam some constructs. We're worried about our opponent being a combo deck or them having something like a dress down at this point. Those are the things we're trying to avoid. They chose not to shuffle with their ponder. Interesting. So we can have 3 artifacts. So we can't cast this if we play this to get this out. So I think we are just playing the seat and making the guy this turn, and then next turn we can Thoughtcast and make a guy. And we can decide if we need what we want to get off of our Urza Saga next turn, depending on what we see from our opponent right now. A basic swamp doesn't really narrow it down. We could be looking at Doomsday. We could be looking at Ad Nauseam Tendrils. I guess it means we know we're not playing against the Epic Storm because they don't run basics. There's a few decks this could be still. Alright, let's make a large creature. Alright, what are we looking at to get here? What am I actually worried about? I want to play this Urza Saga so we can start ticking. So does that change what we want to do with the rest of our mana here? We could just get the Shadow Spear in case that's the thing we want. I think we want the Saga ticking. Like if our opponent is a... Maybe we didn't need that. We could have just played the seat and at least have a chance of drawing into a Force of Will if our opponent is that. But it feels like our opponent's playing Bowmasters. Cycling a Troll. Okay, so our opponent's on a fair deck, so we are looking all right, I would say, from this situation. Our hand, what we've got in play is very good against the fairer side of things. They might have 1 dress down in their main deck. If they don't, though, we are pretty big because our constructs are going to be bigger than Trolls. We're going to have lethal damage coming in next turn. Right, that's not going to really cut it either. Please don't have a dress down. If we do this and have Bowmasters, I'm okay with that. Right, this is Bow. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That just lets us know they basically got nothing in here. Sure, you can ping our construct. And they get to ping our construct a couple more times. That's also fine. So we can make another we can play this and make another construct. Like they have to block both of these guys. This is just a classic old game that you used to get once, like when Urza Saga first was sort of coming to Legacy. You could just play an Urza Saga on Ancient Tomb and win games with it before people kind of got wise to it. So they could trade their Troll here. So this is going to take 3 damage and it's already got 3 damage on it. It should live. If I can count to 7. Which I can, that's exciting. I think we're just going to make more constructs. We're going to brainstorm or a ponder here looking for something that gets them out of it, I think. I'm not sure how this Troll of Khazad-dûm is going to hold down the fort. Sure, I'll just get a Lotus Petal here, I think. We could Spellbomb this, but I don't think that's necessary. Like, they could Bowmasters and then chump, chump, chump. Alright, sure. But our opponent's just throwing all their cards under the bus here. And then post-combat we can drop the Thought Monitor. And the Saga. Alright, our opponent's had enough. like, it was very hard to lose that game once we started cranking out 4/4s on turn 2. So, the scam matchup. Sorghum Lantern definitely has some merit here. The Hull Breacher is also kind of interesting because they're like a cantrip heavy deck. I don't really want Force of Negations here. Flusterstorm is kind of nice to fight with as well. And Dismembers, we need to kill this Orcish Bowmaster when it hits play. So these are things that we can do stuff with if we want to. Question is, what are we boarding out? We could board out Forces and have just some other answers here. So that gives us Dismembers and a Fluster. Pithaniel for Wasteland might have ended up being quite good there. Is it something we desperately want though? Chalice is good against our opponent. Maybe we have the Starguide Lantern here instead. Is Thought Monitor good if we're playing against a deck with Daze and Wastelands? I don't think so. So we're probably looking at having the Hull Breaches instead of those. And that looks quite tidy. Sure, we'll try that. Like Flusterstorm we use to fight over things, but it's not the be-all and end-all. I think if you sideboard too much, you kind of gut what the deck does. Sobering Hand. We go Seat, Mox, play Spellbomb. That turns on this Mox, but it's not quite enough to do anything on turn 1. Is that acceptable? No, we kind of want something like an Emery or a Patchwork. I think we can do slightly better than this. Alright, yeah, I'll keep this one, and we'll throw back the Shadow Spear. So we've got some real haymakers here. So we can turn 1 Tomb here. I think I'm going to play out the Sir Ginger, weirdly. Because if we play this next turn, it's just going to get snagged up by Bowmasters. So this might force a Daze. There you go. Because we can draw things... I suppose we're not supposed to bauble then, are we? We're supposed to wait until our opponent's turn because we've brought out our forces. So we're supposed to not have done that. So we've kind of jeopardized ourselves a little bit here. Alright, it's not something we can get discarded, so we won't punish for it. Alright, so next turn we can play the Ezra Saga and play Chalice of the Void for 1. Hopefully jam our opponent up a bunch. Hull Breacher, that's interesting. Well, if our Chalice works, the Hull Breacher becomes less interesting. So, Chalice of the Void playing around Daze. A Brainstorm, sure. So next turn we can just start making constructs. If they have a counterspell here, they didn't have a counterspell, sure. So we're unlikely to want to drop the Hull Breacher because they're not going to be playing cantrips underneath the Chalice. So we're probably just going to want to... Like, we could just jam a Cannoneer. Okay. We can't do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just play a Seat and pass. We can flash in a Hull Breacher in our opponent's turn. Try and overload their counterspells in 1 turn, perhaps. So... if they want to counter it at their end step, then we can untap and drop something else. But also just start getting some pressure going. There is another Wasteland. These Wastelands are certainly going to keep us away from casting our Kappa Cannoneer. This could just eat a fatal push, but we'll see. Alright, we've got the pressure. We've dealt ourselves quite a bit of damage here. Not really a big fan of just playing out a 3-1 into the Bowmaster deck, though. I think we will attack with this Hull Breacher and then just make another Chalice, because this is effectively a mana rock for the purposes of Kappa Cannoneer. And this means that we're much better against Borrower, because they can't just borrow and then unload a load of spells. So probably just going to be building up for a Murktide. Oh, they missed their... No, they haven't missed their land drop. So they can make a Murktide from now as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if this gets the Orcish Bowmaster's treatment. Yeah, here's the Bowmaster. So we're going to trade with the token here. But this means it's not going to ping our Ginger, which is a mana rock for our Kappa Cannoneer next turn. Which, if we can get a Kappa Cannoneer into play, should be good. Now, if they've got multiple Bowmasters, then we're going to have a real bad time. But we have the choice of playing the cards we've been dealt. So here we are. And we could always just draw another land and be ready to go. So there's some options for us. Basic Swamp from our opponent. What would you like to do? Let's play this. This allows us to play around Daze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this. Our Bowmasters. Yeah. So by them not pinging the Surge Injury when they could, they might have stopped themselves being able to play a Daze. Alright. We now have a large tortoise. And this is whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control. So when we activate our Urza's Saga, that will get us an artifact. No Wasteland, that's good. So we're going to be making some big constructs, making our guy unblockable. I feel pretty happy with this. I think 8-cast is pretty good into like the non-red Delvery style decks. It's the red ones that you just get to dig for meltdowns that can jam you up a bit. A brief while during the days of expressive iteration and stuff where 8-cast was the best deck until the Delver decks obviously innovated to beat it. It's going to be a hard cast Grief. It is. An evasive threat. We are already on 14. And we have a 3-turn clock here. But we do get to stick a Shadow Spear on our guy at some point, unless we draw the Shadow Spear. Okay, we drew a card we didn't get to cast. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're just going to make this guy now. Give our creature unblockability. So if they swing out here, they will die. If they swing out, leave back one guy, they'll also die. Because we're going to get 2 artifacts. Yeah, just 3 damage isn't really enough, I don't think, here for them. Wouldn't mind having a mana source on our next turn. Not a mana source. They've got the mana to snuff out and pay here. So I think we will definitely make another guy. Like Hercule's Recall is obviously going to be a pain. It's just going to get the Soga Lantern. Oh, sorry, I meant to get the Shadow Spear, not the Soga Lantern. Whoops. We'll get rid of Brainstorm there. This is going to stop Murktide being bigger, but we meant to get the Shadow Spear there. They were just next to each other and we clicked the wrong one. As sometimes happens in life. Alright, so this is going to be a Snuff Out paying. He's going to take a big wallop. Okay, they could dress down, but they don't have lethal damage. Not really sure what they're doing. We've played this one a little bit sloppy, if I'm being perfectly honest. But doesn't seem to matter because we were just absolutely haymaking our opponent. This kind of feels like the flip side of the first match where we couldn't really do anything and our opponent was just like curb stomping us. Whereas this one, you know, obviously this was a misclick rather than a mistake. But the, you know, I think we could have been possibly a little bit cleaner in the previous game as well with a couple of turns. But it didn't really matter because we were just smashing into our opponent. I think our opponent made a mistake of not using this on the Surge Injury straight away. If you're going to do that anyway, I think you want to do that because, you know, as we showed, we can use it for mana. So, alright, we are 1-1, let's go to round 3. Alright, we have a turn 1 Emery hand with Force of Will backup. This is like the bread and butter of these 8-casty style decks. Seat, Mox, Emery only costs 1. Let's pop our graveyard out because it's going to be a relevant zone. Okay, we hit something. That's all we needed to do. We can cast a Thought Monitor next turn. It's just going to be a Grim Monolith. Sure. So we're looking to counter something like the One Ring out of a deck like this. I'm suspecting either Paradoxical Outcome or the Mystic Forge deck. One of those sorts of things. Although I don't even think it's the Paradoxical Outcome deck is playing many Paradoxical Outcomes anymore. It's just like a Transmute Artifact coveted duel style thing. But anyway, that's the sort of jam we're looking at. Manifold Key, sure. You can have mana, we just need to get the thing that is your payoff. I think I will pitch the Thought Cast rather than Thought Monitor. See the One Ring here? That is the One Ring. I think we play this pitching the... So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we'll pitch the Thought Cast. At least get a little guy poking in damage, and then if our guy dies, we get to bring it back with Emery, that sort of jam. Let's get this Bauble. We definitely want cards because cards can equal counter spells. Play this. Play this. How much is this now? 2, 3 mana. Let's draw some cards. A Force of Will. That's certainly a welcome one. We'll look at top card of our opponent's library. Another copy of the One Ring. So we are trying to draw a blue card. Understood. We did not draw a blue card. So our opponent does get to put the One Ring into play this turn. Not great for us. I don't believe we beat the One Ring. This is why there are hull breaches in the sideboard. We're not like a Bowmaster's deck that can try and punish them. We don't have... Like, we can have draws that have a lot of pressure, so they have to string together things to do it with. But usually, if they get to untap with the One Ring, they're probably odds on for winning. Because they draw so many cards from it. Right, our opponent has played a Chrome Mox. Let's see what they imprint. Presumably a blue spell. A Seagate Restoration. Sure. 3 mana in the pool. I assume they use the key to untap the monolith. And add some more mana to their pool. There it goes. Transmute Artifact. We do not get to counterspell that one. Huh. I think our opponent is new to the deck. You have to pay the difference in the mana cost to get that to work. Unless they have some sort of line that involves having it in their graveyard. Alright, let's play Patches. Get him up and running. Plays Bauble. Alternatively, they might have used a Transmute Artifact as a bait. But we know they have the One Ring, and we know the One Ring is the scariest thing here. Alright, they have a Lotus Petal on top. Now, obviously, we still know they've got that on top. Plays Saga. We didn't really take damage from the Patches, but if our opponent wins, they win hard. They're not going to get us for exactly 16 damage or something. Alright, not a blue card. Not a blue card. So we are shields down still. We can get a Pithing Needle in a couple of turns with our Saga to shut down the One Ring, but I suspect that's going to be a little too late. Right, so they're untapping their Monolith. The One Ring. Yep. So this gets pretty bad for us. On the plus side, we've at least put a little bit of damage into them, and they are taking damage off their own Ancient Tomb. But I suspect they can probably kill us before the ring kills them. They didn't play out their One Ring. Interesting. Sorry, their Lotus Petal. What do we have here? There's a Saga, sure. Cast this. Play a land. Play out a Petal. This is whenever you cast, so we don't have to play the Urza Saga. We can just hold it up. Have a look at top card of their library. Oh, we can't target them, can we? We can only look at our own library. Aether Spellbomb. So that's not a blue card, but we can hard cast this Force of Will. There's no point attacking because our opponent has protection of everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can Force of Will and make a construct. That'll give us lethal damage next turn. Yep, our opponent is drawing some cards. We get the Pithing Needle next turn, but we need to get to next turn. We have just one Force of Will to get us there. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand, so they might not have more than one payoff. But they can untap the ring and draw 3 cards. So things we need to try and counterspell in this turn would be Paradox Engine and another copy of the One Ring. Because if they play another copy of the One Ring, they protect themselves, and then next turn they get to draw like 7 extra cards, and that should be enough. Alright, another Lotus Petal, we don't care about that. A Transmute Artifact. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. I think this is our time to cast a counterspell here. We do get to untap the One Ring here, if they want to. But that could just get them... I guess the other copy of the One Ring doesn't give them protection, so maybe we're not supposed to do that. I don't know. Very curious about how our opponent used their previous Transmute Artifact as well. They're going to 9 to untap the One Ring. They haven't played a land yet, so it's still possible they could draw into enough stuff to deploy another copy of the One Ring. I just don't know what Transmute Artifact can find them, and I'm kind of worried. Alright. They didn't quite get there. Whew, that was a little scary at times. I would like some Haywire Mites, please. They seem like a good one. Flusterstorm, not where we want to be. Force of Negation, very much where we do want to be. And the Hull Breaches. Chalice of the Void, not really great here. So we'll get rid of those. Aether Spellbomb is kind of a weird one because our opponent sometimes plays Wormcoil Engine. We don't need the Shadow Spear. And then what we're looking at. We don't want to trim on blue cards, really. Maybe we can trim on the Lorien Revealed. Isn't really a matchup where we're looking to do that sort of thing. But I don't think we can trim any more blue cards at this point. Which means we're probably trimming a Bauble. And we don't really want to trim all of our removal. I do want to have an answer for a resolved Wormcoil Engine. That's kind of the pivot a lot of these decks have. So are we trimming another Bauble? Are we trimming the top end of Thought Monitor? Although it's a blue card, probably not. Are we trimming one Sir Ginger? That seems fine. Yeah, because Flusterstorm only hits instants or sorceries, so it's not going to do anything here. Alright, we'll try this. Alright, we have Force of Wills, we have Patches, we have Haywire Might if we can find something to do with it. This hand is a touch slow, but we get to stop the first spooky thing and possibly the second. So we need to say no to the One Ring. Alright, City of Treasures into Grim Monolith. Okay. Mox Opal. This is going to be Stone Cold One Ring on turn 1. Manifold Key. Again, we're just going to try and hit the big payoff. Untapping the Monolith. 5 mana. What fresh horrors do you have for me, opponent? Paradoxical outcome, targeting those 3 cards. I draw 3 that resets them a little bit. They get to play... I think we say no to this one. I will pitch the Emery here. Haywire Might can answer the One Ring if we find green mana. Do we want to just play Patches out and at least have a game plan? I think so. Alright, I believe they're in their draw step here. I think they're going to have to wait and go to their main phase. Yeah, there we go. The One Ring is not something I want to see here. If we find a Mox Opal, it's okay. Aetherflux Reservoir. That's kind of an annoying one. But if they can't string together lots of spells with a draw engine, it won't do that much. It'll be annoying and keep them alive longer than maybe I would like them to be. But I can live with that. Would I rather have a Hull Breacher in play or a Force of Will in hand? I think the answer to that is a Hull Breacher in play. We do have to do this Sorcery Speed though. This just shuts off the Coveted Jewel and the One Ring as ways of them to get into their deck and do stuff. So they'll probably only be able to gain like 1 to 3 life a turn. So we will overcome that. Right, our opponent is playing an island out. What are we going to see from our opponent here? Transmute Artifact. With 2 mana floating. So what are they going to sacrifice? Okay, they're going to put a Wormcoil Engine into play, I believe. There it is. I did mention this is like the pivot plan that our opponent has. It's not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. So, right, we are on play Haywire Might. This can't deal with the Wormcoil Engine, unfortunately. So we're not attacking here. Yeah, I think we're probably just going to lose to Wormcoil Engine. It's nice to see Wormcoil Engine seeing Legacy play again. It's a cool card. It was pretty horrible in Standard. It was just like the best thing you could do, really. But I think in Legacy, it's like a nice little pivot that these decks can have that isn't too powerful. Obviously, White Removal is very good against it. It's just a nice little blast from the past. And their plan is to ride this all the way. And they might well be able to do that. Emery is a nice pickup there. Pop our graveyard out. See if we can find the thing we need. It's not in there. Okay. Next turn we can start chump blocking. Might as well undo one of these hits. I guess we can't even chump block because of the Manifold Key. Right. We haven't got many turns to find this Ether Spell Bomb. Like, Shadow Spear is something we've boarded out, so we can't try and buy ourselves extra turn by gaining life. And eventually growing our Patchwork so it's big enough. So I think our opponent's in a pretty solid position here. With their one relevant permanent. Actually, it's not just one relevant permanent. A Manifold Key is very relevant here too. Thoughts Monitor. How much does this cost? 5. So we don't get to cast that right now. Let's get this Mox Opal back. So now it costs 3. But it costs 4. I can do maths. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to use the Mox Opal to get rid of the Manifold Key. So that they can't have an unblockable guy. Now, this isn't great. We're doing what we can do. We don't need to get rid of the Manifold Key. We can just Pithing Needle it. That's better, I think. Also grows our guy and keeps our damage high. Sure, untapping the Wormcoil. Sure. Might as well play this out. And pass. So we can throw our Thought Monitor under the bus, and then we can draw cards with it every turn. Just recasting it. So our opponent probably isn't attacking at this point. Haywire Might is non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment, so it can't actually hit the Wormcoil. It's in there for things like the One Ring or Paradox Engine or whatever. Alright, our opponent's giving us a draw engine here. Yes, please. Now, obviously, they're going to be gaining a lot of life every time. But we get to bring back Thought Monitor every turn. And eventually, our guy will grow big enough. Metallic Rebuke. Let's get that Thought Monitor. Just 3 mana. I will be using this mana and saving our life total. It does take us off of the green here. But I think that's acceptable. If we find a land, we do get to Metallic Rebuke, but this is also just a blue card for Force of Will. And as a Saga is nice. A Bauble is nice. Always happy to draw more cards. See what our opponent's working with. Chrome Mox, sure. Splash for 7. Next turn we can start cranking out some pretty large constructs. So I think we're okay. Like the Haywire Might is there to chump block if our Thought Monitor dies. I'd rather not lose the Hull Breacher if possible. Alright, we're going to see end of turn here. A bounce spell on something. A Dress Down. What does this Dress Down actually do? It turns off our Hull Breacher, but we can always counterspell a One Ring if we want to. And they only get 1 turn with it. I think this is just a way of trying to draw a card here. Cast, sure, more velocity, I'll take that. So what I would like to do is... Okay, they're going to play something big here. The One Ring. So they get to draw some cards from it this turn. Is that enough that I'm counterspelling this? I think we probably should just counterspell this. And we're going to keep the Thought Cast because the plan here is to try and get ourselves an Aether Spellbomb to bounce this Wormcoil. Because we left it in specifically for this. Well, now we obviously have the Urza Saga ticking down, but if we get it quicker, that can be a bit more useful. Because we can just reuse it all the time with Emery, so they never get to do Wormcoil stuff. We're going to see Metallic Rebuke or something here. Our opponent's also playing quite slowly. So there's definitely a possibility they run out of clock in this match. Alright, so they get 1 turn with the One Ring here. And they get the protection from the One Ring for a turn. Right, up to 2 cards. They can't Manifold Key because of the Pithing Needle actually, so they only get the 1 activation here. They're going to attack with their 6/6. They are. I don't think they should, but they are. I will take this and keep drawing cards. And then this Dress Down will die. I'll tap and we'll carry on this whole little song and dance that we've been doing. As the Saga ticks up. Force of Will, not unhappy to see you. Get Thought Monitor back. Blue, blue, blue. Let's get some cards. Play on the seat. This will grow our existing things. I don't think we want to play another Emery out here. We're just going to pitch this to Force of Will. We could have drawn some cards with the Thought Cast if we wanted to. Maybe that would have been better. But I'm just trying to play a little quickly here because the clock is coming in at us a bit. So next turn this goes and gets Aether Spellbomb, and then this guy never gets to stay on the battlefield. Our opponent's going to... They're not going to combat, sure. Do I want to take 2 damage to make an Urza Saga construct? I believe I do. We can gain 2 life with the Haywire Might and a pinch. 2 mana for this. Yeah, I think we just make another guy. More guys always good, right? See, now a Dress Down would be good if our opponent had one. Let's get this Aether Spellbomb. I would like to... I think we will just bounce this. Just get it out of here. Attacks. I think our opponent might have a Hull Breacher. Attack with these 2 big ones, I think. No, this is a 2-turn clock, regardless. So I would like to get this Aether Spellbomb back, but I don't want to tap out of the Haywire Might just yet. So we're just going to get this Bauble back instead. This would have been 1 more damage on the Automaton if we did it first, and 1 more damage here, but I don't think that matters. Let's see what our opponent's drawing, give it more information about what we want to counterspell perhaps. Aloran Revealed, sure. That doesn't do anything with Hull Breacher in play. What are we seeing here? Untapping Grim Monolith the hard way, sure. We have Force of Will, backup. We have all the guys you could possibly want to attack with. I think we are doing a-okay. And that little Aether Spellbomb that I put in my deck, like we might have been able to beat through that Wormcoil engine anyway. But having Aether Spellbomb very much helped. And this is again, because I play a lot of Legacy, just knowing that the sideboard plans these decks on gives you a little bit of an edge that somebody else might not have. I'm not saying I'm some sort of master, I'm just saying that I play too much Legacy and follow the format too closely to get tricked by sideboard pivots into Wormcoil Engines. Alright, our opponent has decided to pack it up. Yeah, that felt pretty good. You can certainly see why Hullbreacher is in the sideboard. It was an absolute haymaker in this matchup. It just shut down a lot of what our opponent's trying to accomplish. We did have a decent amount of Force of Wills, but our opponent did force back and things. So, yeah, happy with how I played that one in the end. Let's go to round 4. We are 2-1. Alright, our opening hand is very much down to Urza Saga or bust. Is this a thing I want to keep? Like, with the Force of Will, it is tempting. I think I am going to go for it here. Is that crazy talk? Maybe. Maybe it is. I can feel a Wasteland in our very near future. But it only takes like 1 blue mana source and this hand changes a lot as well. Alright. Nomads in Core. Alright, we are on some sort of Cephalid breakfast deck over there. Would I rather have a bigger creature when I play this? I think I would rather have the bigger creature since we already have a Force of Will. But if they have extra protection, then we can definitely get jammed up here. Right, they're just going for it straight up. Alright. I don't believe they're attacking here. It'd be a nice mistake if they did, but they did not. I think our opponent has multiple copies and they're just going to jam next turn as well. Well, if you're going to keep a hand on Urza Saga, it certainly doesn't hurt just drawing nothing but Urza Sagas. We can get a Pithing Needle here and name Nomads and Core. That's pretty reasonable. Let's go to attacks. And then we will crack this Bauble because we're now looking for a Force of Will. But we'll wait till we get the 1 point damage from it. Let's see a random card from your hand, opponent. A Force of Will in our opponent's hand. Alright. Well, if they have it, they have it. And there's not much we can do about that. Surprised they didn't fight over it last turn. If they did have it, though. But I guess now we have the Nomads, which is kind of the Pithing Needle Nomads, which is jam them up a bit. So maybe. I think if they could have fought for it last time, they should have. Obviously, we know that with the information in our hand. But with the Urza Saga coming off, the chance of us having some sort of graveyard hate to make that more difficult, or, you know, a Pithing Needle like we got, is definitely an issue for them. Maybe they didn't have a second blue card, though. We might have just had the Force and no other blue card. A Narcomoeba. Sure. I am A-OK with my opponent playing Narcomoebas. Seat of Traitors or something would be good here. Seat is fine. I think it's better just to play the Seat. How many artifacts do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can cast Thoughtcast for 1 mana. That's pretty good. Another Force of Will. Not unhappy to see that. Let's go to attacks. Alright, our opponents just had enough there. Yeah. They mustn't have had a second blue card, but they did have that Narcomoeba. So maybe that's what they drew for turn. That would make sense. So Soulguard Lantern is useful here. The Haywire Mites can deal with the Cauldron if they go down that route. Force of Negation doesn't feel great here. Hydro Blast doesn't feel great here. Flusterstorm, like, Dismember is probably what we're getting. The Chalice is okay, but I'm not, like, in love with it, to be honest. The Spellworm isn't great either. I'm not a fan of that. I think the Shadow Spear, I'm not really sure we need the Shadow Spear either, because we're going to have bigger constructs than them anyway, so we're not really going to worry about our life total that much. You can trim us a Ginger and a Bauble, and then maybe we'll trim a Thought Monitor. What's our blue count looking like? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. I don't really think we can trim another blue card there. So maybe it's the Shadow Spirit and just rely on our constructs being bigger anyway. That seems fine. And we've got the 2 answers for Cauldron, which is also 4 life in there if we need it. Okay, we have a removal spell. Yeah, this seems fine. Right, no turn 1 play. That's good for us. Well, actually, is it good? Because that means they're not pondering to look for it. They just kind of, maybe they just have it. Right, Lotus Petal. Bauble. Let's jam an Emery here. A Brainstorm in response. Looking for an answer. We can obviously pay around a days if we need to. So it has to be a Force here. We do have another Emery, so I would love to see a Force pitched at our Emery. It slows us down a little bit, but it's going to take a reasonable bite out of our opponent's resources for this game. Can I have Emre, please? Let's have a look at what she finds us. Automaton. Do I want to have this right now? Because if we have 1, 2, 3 artifacts, we can cast this next turn. Is that better? I think it's better to leave it in play. Because next time we can get the Mox Opal and actually cast Thoughtcast. Because Mox Opal effectively is 2 mana for Thoughtcast. Because it's an artifact and also makes mana. If we have to fire off a Dismember for something, we can. So is this going to be a Stoneforge Mystic? It is. Let's see which option they go for here. Are you a Shuko gamer or a Kaldra gamer? A Kaldra gamer, sure. Again, that's fine. We can kill this if we want to. 1, 2, 3. Yes, we're not. Yeah, I think it's the Mox this turn. Just get some more cards going. That costs 2 mana, so we could just play the Haywire Might first, which is also an answer to Kaldra. And then we can Thoughtcast. Alright, so we've got a Force of Will if we want it. We've got another Lotus Petal. I don't think we want to play that out since we have patches, although it does let us play around days if we play this out. So I think on balance I will play this out in case we need the Dismember. Maybe I'm playing cautiously, but maybe they're trying to bait us into interacting with this and then they just go Nomad Cephalid. And then we're going to want to have our interaction around a days. A Brainstorm. Alright. So we're not going to get comboed this turn, is what our opponent's telling us. An Urza Saga of their very own. Our Urza Saga are better. Serenity. We have an answer for that in play. That's fine. It doesn't matter if we do it now or later because we'll be using a piece of mana that does that anyway. Alright, so what are we doing with this turn? I think putting a Kappa Cannoneer on the stack is an interesting option. Let's play this Saga. So if we want... I think we are getting the Bauble here. Or actually, we're getting the Kappa from the graveyard. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That leaves us with 1 mana which can be used for this, which means we won't have Dismember mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can then get this Lotus Petal back if we cast the one from hand. So yeah, we need to cast the one from hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one needs to crack so that we can replay it. This does play into days potentially here. Would not like to get hit by days here. Right, we did not get hit by days. Okay, let's get rid of this Serenity. Do I want to draw a card with the Bauble? I think I probably do. Shuko on top. Okay. So what we don't want to see here is them present the combo. Illusionist. Alright, this is a counterspell target for us. And there's a Nomad, sure. That's fine. This gets to start ticking up. I'd like to play this land, I think. I would like to bring back Haywire Might. I don't think I'm making Construct, I don't think it's necessary. Just get this Haywire Might going. I'll probably just say GG there. Alright. Yeah, that Force of Will was pretty good. That was a pretty good, nice example of just doing our thing, grinding away, having the right interaction at the right time. Playing against Cephalid Breakfast is really scary because at any point you can lose the game. But having played it myself, sometimes you're just on the other end, you've just got nothing going on. You're desperately looking for something. But it feels like to your opponent that you've just got it all. So that's the positive record locked in. Can we make it a 4-1? Let's find out. We're on the play for the final round. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we can just start doing our thing on turn 1, right? So let's just draw a bunch of cards. I do like drawing cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's draw some cards. So if we don't draw anything here, that's kind of a bit awkward. Alright, so we sort of kept a hand that played a load of stuff, but now we kind of need it to go somewhere. City of Traitors in our opponent's hand. Was on top of their library. Blast Zone. So we're probably looking at lands here. I don't think I want to play a Pith Needle on Wasteland. I don't think it's necessary just yet. Alright, another redraw. Okay, so we have loads of cards, but none of them do anything. Oh, okay, no, they're the colourless deck again. Sure. I thought Sea of Traitors was a bit of an odd one to have in lands. Alright. Sure. Oh no, this doesn't work yet, does it? We need to play this one out. Alright, now we'll draw some more cards. Kappa Cannoneer. That is our only blue card, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can't actually do that yet. So I think we play out this. Tap this. Play the needle on the one ring. So if we crack this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can crack this to try and find a different blue card for Force of Will and still be able to play the Kappa Cannon in the next turn. Right, we've seen the Blast Zone before, and there it is again. I don't believe our opponent's going to be just having a handful of those. We did not find another blue card, so if we have to pitch this Kappa Cannoneer, we have no pressure. But hopefully we don't have to pitch a Kappa Cannoneer. Oh, a Paradox Engine, that's pretty gross, isn't it? Yikes. I don't think we can allow this card to hit play, which means we're once again trying to find cards that do something. It's definitely a problem I have conceptually with this deck sometimes. It's like we have this hand, it's like, oh yeah, we get to draw like a million cards, it's all good, but then we're not actually going anywhere. We're going to keep this Lotus Petal in hand because if we save it, it can grow a Patchwork. Whereas a Shadow Spear, having it in play will save us mana. Okay, Grim Monolith, that is fine. We need some sort of key to start untapping these before we get worried. Another Grim Monolith. Mystic Forge. With no art. Okay. Not as strong as the One Ring. But if we don't assemble some sort of threat, then we've got nothing. For the exile. Another Mystic Forge, sure. Patches. Okay. That out we played to make our patches better. Here it is. I guess we probably could have got an additional point of power as well if we really wanted it there. I will keep using hand to represent Force of Will blue card. Not that our opponent's necessarily playing around it, but they could. Alright. Feels like they need something here. Sure, you can exile an Urza's Workshop. A Soul Guide Lantern. That will be useful if we have some sort of Emery. But at present, we've just got our threat doing its thing. Slowly, but it's there. Pithing Needle. Sure, we can't really interact with this, so let's just let it hit. What are they going to name here? Emery or Shadow Spear? Probably Emery, there you go. Yes, they've got Emery covered in 2 different ways now. Understood. They just plain need to clear the top of their library and stuff. A Lotus Petal, I will play that. Let's pump our guy. Let's attack. Sure, they're exiling some cards of Mystic Forge. I'm going to draw a card with the Soul Guide. They are. Okay, they finally found the Voltaic Key. So this can start to untap their Grim Monoliths and actually get them the mana to cast and spells. So things are starting to come off a little bit wheel-wise for us. And Urza Saga can make some constructs, and they're going to be pretty large and in charge. So it'll be a good time to find some of these draw spells. Although we've played a lot of them. Alright. We'll play this. Grow our guy. Go attacks. Yep, so they're untapping their Grim Monolith, so on their turn they're going to have a decent amount more mana. Now they might want to funnel this into Urza Saga, but they have the choice to do whatever they want really. So we kind of need to hope the top of their deck isn't kind to them. Another Saga, so they could just pivot into the Saga plan. How many got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So their creature will be beating our creature, which is not great. Okay, the One Ring. They can't activate this, but they can prevent some damage. This is interesting though, because this means they don't get to make a construct. Are you better off just making a construct there? I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. They probably play their deck more times than I have, so. Sir Ginger. Let's grow our friend. We can grow Sir Ginger at will as well. One of these out. Okay. Right, Mystic Forge is continuing to exile cards from top of the library. Right. So now they can tutor for something off of there as a Saga. What do I think they're going to go for? Manifold Key. They can just make a big Saga and try and bop us a couple of times with it. That's pretty potent. Lots of Urza Saga triggers. So they're making a guy and shooting for something horrible. He's got a Shadow Spear here. Okay, they're just getting a Manifold Key. And tapping a good Monolith. Interesting, doing all of this in response to the Urza Saga. So they are the Urza Saga beatdown now. Up Assault Monolith. Sure. Paradox Engine. Well, that's terrible news. So every time they play a thing, all of their mana untaps. So they should be able to rifle through their deck unless they hit lands. But it's not deterministic, so we have to let them play it all out. Right, there's the Blast Zone that we've been keeping tabs on this whole time. Right, we're just going to let our opponent take the wheel here. Just F6 this turn. They could kill us if they find Aetherflux Reservoir. Right. Don't want this Otawara, really. Yep, so they blew up the Blast Zone on 1, so they could activate the One Ring here. So how do we beat this? Once this One Ring gets up to... Okay, they've got enough stuff here, right? So this is going to untap everything. Yeah, they should be able to win from here. Okay. So we're back to this old chestnut again. Let's have some Hull Breaches, some Force of Negations, some Haywire Mites. I don't really want the Shadow Spear. We do want to keep Spellbomb in case they pivot. Trim here and here. We can trim one of these. Chalice on 1 is actually okay. It's probably better than I think it is because it hits all of their little keys. If we can get this down on the play, it makes it harder to work out what the final cut is. Maybe no, we can't cut any more blue cards, can we? Are we just trimming more baubles? Is that right? Doesn't feel amazing, but it probably is the correct choice. We're trimming a Sajinja. We do need to get the game won. Alright, we'll try like this with the chalices in this time for keys. Obviously, we didn't need it last time when we played this matchup, but have a look. So this hand doesn't really do anything. It counters some spells, but we need to actually have a game plan of our own. Yikes. Like, we can keep this, and if we bottom a Saga, we can play a turn 1 Patchwork and start scaling that up now. And the plan here is we play the bauble and hope to draw a blue card off of it. I like our opponent's position here, to be honest. Maybe we're supposed to go to 5 on this one. I got a Lotus Petal. We did not find the blue card. Now this might not be the big turn. This might just be play a thing. Okay, there's his Workshop. This is probably not a big turn. So we've got another turn to try and find a friend for our Force of Negation, most likely. Right, these certainly help. Pretty real clock here as well. Another card in the hand. Paradox Engine. That's a scary one. And a Khan the Great Creator. Okay, Khan is pretty horrible. Does shut down a lot of what we're doing, but if they just make a Khan, then they're not winning to what's on board. So, okay, maybe Thoughtcast there. Are we going to counter the Khan if they play it? We can counter the Khan and just pump out some constructs. A Grim Monolith. I think this is weirdly a time where I'm into counterspelling this. Like, they've popped a Lotus Petal to do this, so they're clearly shy on mana. Yeah, let's try this out. Let's get rid of this Grim Monolith. And then we can just make some guys. Force of Will could be useful soon. We'll find out. Let's go attacks. Because on this board, Khan is not actually that good. Because we can immediately kill it, and we have like reasonable pressure if we could possibly even ignore the Khan. But they have to get the mana to cast it. Alright, hitting that Grim Monolith. Our opponent showed us they didn't have the land by using the Petal. He's playing another key out. Construct. See what we find here. We could just get Pedino and just shut off both these Voltaic keys. That seems reasonable. This stops any of the mana draws being good for them, really. Because they can't just dump a Grim Monolith into play and then untap it a bunch. So normally I would hit payoffs against this deck, but our opponent showed us that our counter was best pointed where it was, so we use that information. Do you want to do anything differently? I don't think so. That felt alright. Let's just go back in. Our opener here doesn't have a counter spell. It doesn't really have any way of setting anything up, so I think we're going to mulligan this. This does have a counter spell, and it can play an Urza Saga game. So we'll keep this. So we're keeping Saga, Tomb, Force of Will, blue card. And then it gets a little trickier. Are we playing this? Do we want to keep this Seat of the Synod, or do we want to keep this Mox Opal? I think we want to keep this Thoughtcast, because it's another blue card if we find some more. These are kind of the same deal a lot of the time. I think we're going to throw back the Mox. Just having a reliable coloured source of mana, I think, is nice in case things go wrong. Our opponent's gone to 5, so maybe we can get them here. A defense grid. If we don't counterspell this, we don't get to counterspell anything ever again. I don't like it, but I think it's where we're at. Incredible draw. So we are pretty happy about this one. We got lucky there. I'll take lucky. A Voltaic Key. That's fine. And nothing else. Interesting. No land. Very interesting. Right, let's start beating down. We can choose between keeping Emery or Thoughtcast when we Force of Will. City of Traitors. What have you got, opponent? Seems like nothing. I will take nothing and jam ourselves a construct. Right, we're going to make another construct before our Saga goes away. I think we're going to get the Pithing Needle here and name the One Ring. That's the scariest thing in our opponent's deck. So we'll play out this artifact, play out this artifact. Let's draw some more cards. Dismember on our guy. Sure, that's fine. They also dismember the wrong one, which is kind of handy for us. So we'll keep these. I'm just trying to work out if we want to play out this Otawara or want to hold it to bounce stuff later on. If we play this, we get 1 more point of damage. I'm playing out this Otawara here. If we play out the Otawara now, we don't get to bounce anything with it. Yeah, we're not going to play out the Emery because it's our blue card for Force of Will. Yeah, if they'd have dismembered this one, they'd have saved themselves 5 life this turn. Alright, I feel we're in an okay spot, but the wheels can definitely come off. But it'd have to be via blowing up this and doing One Ring stuff, or like having a really good Mystic Forge turn. Khan the Great Creator. What does this actually do? If they +1 this on a Mox or something, we only deal 4 damage, which is not lethal. But if we find any artifact, it is lethal. What are we worried about with 2 mana? I think we just say no to this. It's a powerful card. I don't think there's much they can punish off with 2 cards. Yeah, our opponent agrees. And that is the match and the league. So we finish with a 4-1 record, only getting beaten by the Red-White Initiative, which kind of steamrolled us a little bit. Alright, let's talk about the deck. So obviously I think this deck is very powerful. I think you do need to have a decent amount of reps with it, because otherwise you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You've got a lot of hands that are kind of weird to look at, and you need to know the percentages and roughly how it feels and what hands are keepable. Like we had that one where we just kind of had lots of draw effects and they didn't really go anywhere, and maybe a better player would this deck, maybe, you know, an expert at this deck is going to be saying, no, you don't keep that, you need to have a plan, or maybe it is fine, I don't know. And that's kind of what you need to sort of learn with this deck. We didn't really do anything with Sajinja. This didn't feel like it was really adding anything to the deck. I do understand wanting more Patchwork Automatons. This card is great, and I think having it is quite nice. This is kind of how the deck's pivoted these days, and I think it makes a lot of sense. This seems better than Sai. It just comes down on turn 1 off of like one of your soul lands and then grows, and it's hard to deal with. So I do like the Patchwork. I'm just not really convinced on Surginja, especially since it usually comes in as a 1 toughness guy, and you need to make sure that you sandbag a sackable artifact to keep it going. But yeah, not sure about that one. I think it is probably better than running something like a Nettle Cyst, but I could see running Nettle Cyst because it kind of does a similar thing. But maybe I'm trying to think when you're likely to get the trample off of the trample, hexproof, and haste. I guess it's going to be Minsk and Booze, like one of the only planeswalkers that sees a lot of play these days. And even then, it's not a big deal that you're seeing a lot of the time. So I'm not really sure how much work it's going to be doing for us on the whole. But the rest of it all felt fine. We never really did stuff with Lorien Revealed, and we bored it out a fair bit. But I can understand wanting to have that. It seems like it's going to be very good against matchups where you want to have access to blue mana for sure, for things like Hydroblast especially. So you can use your island. So you can use any of your lands to cycle Lorien Revealed to get your island to cast your Hydroblast, or you can use your Lotus Petals or Mox Opals. So you've got a lot of ways of getting through a Blood Moon that way, to turn back on your Eyes of Sagas and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this deck is very strong. You can certainly see how it won a challenge. It's been a known quantity for a while. It's not exactly my style of deck. I prefer to be a little more on the combo spectrum than this, but it plays like an interesting mid-range deck or a tempo deck or even a control deck at times. It kind of has a lot of different gears depending on the hands you get. And for me, I like having access to lots of different plans, but I also don't like the fact that we don't always get to choose our plans so much. It's kind of dictated to us by how like our opening hands and the first couple of draws go. Because sometimes we just have, okay, we're just going to make a couple of patchworks, play a bunch of things, race you. But other times you're going to have like a slow hand where you're just force of willing, then refueling, force of willing, refueling, like we did against some of those combo matchups. And it is nice to be able to pivot between them, but because we're not playing cantrips and things, we don't get to be the ones that necessarily decide that. Now we can obviously make those choices via sideboarding, so like boarding up on counter spells. We're obviously going to be more akin to doing that sort of thing. But the flexibility is nice, even if we're not as flexible as a deck that gets to cantrip and choose. We do still have card advantage, and we can maybe find the things we want. But I think learning all the ins and outs of this deck takes quite a while, and also like making sure that you know when you're keeping a hand, because some of the hands look fine but aren't, and some of the hands look terrible but are probably fine if you know like the maths on your baubles. But then it is going to be a percentage where you keep this hand full of redraws and it does nothing, and that kind of spooks me out a little bit. But yeah, it's easy to see why It's Swifty Time managed to win the challenge with this. I think the sideboard felt fine. It's interesting having Solgar Lantern but only in the sideboard. It makes sense, I suppose, if you're relying on your counter magic and the chalices to do that work. And the Hull Breach was very good for us today. Like we had the One Ring matchups. It just feels like an absolute haymaker that you want to slam in those matchups. If you got a lot of them in your area, I can even see running more of them. And Haywire Might is a card that I absolutely adore. It's one of my favourite cards printed in recent sets. It's just a simple card that has a surprising amount of utility, and I just think it's a really nice, clean design. Alright, I think we are done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to hit 2,500 subs by my birthday in April, and if I do that, I'm going to do some giveaways of extra donation decks on my Patreon for anyone who's subbed on my actual birthday. So, you can sub for just $2 and get thrown into the big raffle for that if you want. But most importantly, just watch my stuff and enjoy Legacy and play Legacy on your own if you can, and watch some of the other great content creators out there. It is just a wonderful format, and I am privileged that I get to play so much of it, really. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepts, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepts guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.